The first three worlds are intellectual worlds. They're called Hochamh, Binah, and Daat. Hochamh is wisdom, Binah is understanding, and Daat, or Das, is knowledge. Those English words don't encompass the Hebrew words properly, because you can also translate them different. As a package, we're calling them intellect. So I want to explain the process a little bit to you, at least the way it's defined, and maybe we relate to it, maybe we don't. When an idea comes to us, not something that we're taught, but even with something that we're taught, in essence what's happening inside of us, is that an idea is appearing in our minds. An idea is being born to our heads, so to speak. But let's say, for example, you're a brainstorming person on a team, and you're supposed to come up with an idea, and we've all been this person at some time, maybe on a wedding planning committee, maybe we're supposed to come up with something because there's a crisis going on, maybe we're stuck in traffic, and we brainstorm an idea. Where does that idea come from? Well, it comes from nothing. How does that make sense? We pulled the idea from somewhere. The birth of that idea, the beginning of that idea, is a lightning flash of inspiration. Not necessarily like, oh wow, I'm inspired. But you have this, they say like the light bulb going on, but you have that effect going on inside of you. Sometimes the idea you're accessing, and the idea you're giving birth to, is a pretty complex idea to the point that you feel you got it before you actually process it. In other words, you feel the separation. You feel yourself getting it before you actually got what you got. Sometimes you see students doing it. Oh wait, I get it. Oh, give me a second, I'm getting it. And what's going on is that they're realizing themselves getting it. They're realizing what's going on inside their head. They, so to speak, if you could slow down time, you could see yourself give birth to something before you actually get it, right? That is Hochamh. Hochamh is the flash, the beginning. The second you take that idea, which is the natural process your mind does right away, and you start dissecting it, you've moved away from wisdom. You moved away from Hochamh and you moved into Binah. It's a natural process. Maybe right now you guys are like, oh wait, I got it. But immediately you're toying with it. Immediately you start working out this idea. Okay, he just explained double letters. I'm getting this. Now you're already into Binah. Now you're already into understanding. Understanding is the dissection. There's a parable for this. The parable is the difference between a man and a woman. A man towards a child gives one inspiration, one moment. But that moment is encompassing. There's a lot in there, but it's just a moment. A woman spends 9 months dissecting that and turning it into life. The same thing in a thought process. In the thought process, we have a moment that has the full idea in it, but it's useless if it's never developed. And you have people like that. On teams, they'll throw an idea. I think we should do this. Great idea. How are you going to do that? Then you have the people that turn that from an idea into a wide array of things. Before, in the Siddur, before the prayers start, they say there's 13 rules. You can read, it's written right there, 13 rules to understanding Torah, and then we start the prayers in the morning. It's written right there. And the 13 rules are rules, for example, if you take any piece of Torah, which is like a birth of knowledge, how to dissect that knowledge and start studying it. It's the same thing. Binah is the dissection of that. But that doesn't get us to where we need to go to. If you had a team that sat down and someone said, what we need to do now is we need to up our our revenue by 22%. So they have their mission statement here. And that team says, oh great, and they all break into things. They come up with 72 different ideas of ways we could do it. And not only that, they've got the pros and they've got the cons and they play devil's advocate with it and they come up, they haven't gotten anywhere. If the meeting ended there, they walked out exactly where they started. There needs to be a birth process too. There needs to be an ending process. If you want to say like a file, you need to be able to re-zip that file. You have to come out with an outcome. And that is Das. Das is bringing it back to a point, but a processed point. In education, you have a teacher that'll walk in, they'll make an opening statement. That's their Hochamh, their wisdom. Then they give a 45-minute class on it, answering questions, going all over, giving examples back and forth. If they left off there, they would lose everybody. Then they give a 5-minute summary, re-closing with a point. In the Talmud does not necessarily close with points, and that's what makes it hard to give rulings from the Talmud. You're about codes of Jewish law. Why can't you just use the Talmud? Because the Talmud is the Binah process. It's this wide open process. You have the Mishnah, which is the originator. The Mishnah is these short teachings, which people say, I don't get what they're saying. Because it's Hochamh. It's these points of wisdom. The Talmud takes those words and they turn into pages of arguments and ideas, philosophies, beliefs. But then you look at it and say, now I get what they're saying, but I don't know what the answer is. And then you come to Code of Jewish Law, and they give the answer. You say, based on these arguments and these outcomes, the answer is that on Shabbos, when someone's sick, you should do this. And that's the Daat. Without the final process, the process doesn't work. In other words, if you never give birth to the child, then what was the point of the inspiration? What was the point in that whole process? Obviously, there always are points, because all these things exist.
Example?
In a minute. But this is the intellectual process. We start with an idea. It's born in our heads. We toy with the idea. We expand the idea. And then we give birth to the idea with an outcome of what we're going to do with that. Sometimes a speech is like this. They start with an idea. They go through a whole array of things about it. And then they come with an outcome, what they want from it. Pledge speeches are definitely like that. They want an outcome of money because. And it's built on the premise of what they've done. But this is the way our intellectual process works. So some people say, I'm more of like, you hear the words, I'm more of a wisdom person. Some say I'm more of an understanding person. We all work with all these processes. Some of us are more understanding. That's it's a mistranslation of the word Binah. In other words, I could be more understanding of you. I can understand you. But inside myself, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm working through things in this process. I take the idea, I run it through many scenarios, and then I come to an ending. We also do this sometimes negatively. And again, that's an emotionally driven intellect. When you take an idea, or you take a feeling, let's say you mishear something and you say, oh my gosh, and you start running through scenarios of things that could be going on. The problem is that we didn't start with fact. We started with feeling. And then you can see why the process doesn't work. Because on a factual process, when you get a fact, a piece of information, my daughter's having twins. We can run through all the scenarios of what's going to go on that, and the outcome is my daughter's having twins. Then it can feed into the emotions. Nothing happened here. And this is the intellectual balance that's supposed to lead into our emotions.
Okay.
Obviously it doesn't always. Sometimes we skip the thinking process. We have this bright idea, we spit it out, and they always say, think before you talk. And possibly it's because we're going to say something wrong. But possibly also it's because we got the brightest thing to say and we didn't process it to say it correctly. If a teacher doesn't do this before they teach, then what they're teaching will never connect with the students. If a student doesn't work this process as they're hearing it, they'll never bring it to true depth. It says a student will reach the wisdom of their teacher after 40 years. A true student with a true teaching and a true teacher, it'll take 40 years. And why? Because it takes 40 years for a true teaching to solidify within one's mind to the maximum. It says Moses taught the entire Torah. Did he teach the entire Torah? He sat there and taught every Jewish book we have today? What he taught, it was all there in Hochamh. Then through the years, we're turning this into Binah. We're turning this into a wider understanding. And then we need to bring that back into practicalization. If we just stay in this plane of, well, these are the ideas, but we can't pull out a punchline, then we're struggling still for what is the outcome here. So this is the beginning of these three realms. I want to stop here.